What could happen if we were really intentional with outreach and evangelism, especially around one of the biggest world events, like the World Cup? On this episode of Student Ministry Connection, we're talking with Heather Reddy about her own soccer experience and how that eventually led her to work with Crew and their huge initiative called Victory Beyond the Cup. Let's get ready to connect and grow. Welcome to Student Ministry Connection. My name is Steve Cullum. And while I think most of you know or could probably safely assume that I love Jesus and student ministry, some other things that you may not know about me is that I'm a big gamer, especially Nintendo. I love being outdoors and doing things like hiking and rafting and skiing and all that. And I really like sports, especially soccer. I had the opportunity to play 4 years in college and I loved it. I still play when I can, and I really enjoy watching it too, especially when it comes to the World Cup every 4 years. It's a similar feeling that I have around the Olympics, but this is just one sport which the entire world seems to know. And over the summer, we come together around this unifying sport to see which country has the best team. And this sporting event seems to draw in a lot of people, even those who are not huge fans of soccer, or football as it's called in a lot of the rest of the world outside the handful who call it soccer. This year, 2026 in particular, the United States, Canada, and Mexico are hosting the World Cup, which means it's going to be bigger than ever here in the United States. So what if we, as Christians and student ministry leaders, were to take advantage of this big event and use it as an opportunity to reach more people with the gospel? What if we could equip our teenagers and their families to do that as well? Well, that's what Heather Reddy and the team at Crew are hoping to do with their initiative called Victory Beyond the Cup. Their simple yet amazing vision has spawned several resources that can help you and your students be intentional around the World Cup this year, but then also help them continue living it out beyond the cup. Even if you're listening to this after the World Cup 2026, there's still a lot to take in from this episode, so I hope you continue to listen and are able to contextualize what we talk about to maybe another big event that you can rally around and help your students reach their peers and their neighbors. So let's jump into this recent conversation I had with Heather Reddy, who is a longtime leader with Crew and Athletes in Action and currently leads up Crew's World Cup initiative called Victory Beyond the Cup. Heather also has a great testimony of being a soccer player herself and how some struggles with injury actually helped her grow in her relationship with Jesus and set her up for all that she's been able to do through her ministry. Well, hey, Heather, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Steve. I'm excited to be with you guys.
So I'm excited to meet you, but also talk about all the stuff surrounding the World Cup that you guys are going to be able to do and how we can participate in it. But before we jump into any of that, I love connecting, and I think our audience loves just connecting with our guests as well. So let's start with your testimony and how you began in your relationship with Jesus, how you got started in ministry and all that.
Yeah, well, so I grew up in a Christian home, and my parents have been full-time ministry, still are. And so I heard the gospel at a young age. And I would say that is when prayed the prayer, probably the age of 5. But I would say, so grew up in the church, knowing all of the things that came to know about Jesus. But also there was this other part of me that I was really devoted to soccer. Like that was like, I was playing travel teams, all the things. And my focus was really on wanting to be the best soccer player I could be. Wanted to play D1, like that was my goal. And so all of my energy and emphasis went into being the best player I could be. I would still acknowledge that I was like still a believer. Like I was going on mission trips and doing all of the things. But I would say really where my focus and my heart was, like my heart was probably more in terms of really loving soccer and trying to be the best at that. And I think as I got older, where I saw that coming out was just in this performance mindset. I was, on that roller coaster of really anything of, whether it's athletics or success, but it's like when you're doing great, you feel really great. When you're not doing great, you feel really bad. And that was just seeping into my walk with the Lord, as well as just feeling that I had to perform for him. And that, if I was doing all the things, checking all the boxes, then God was really happy with me. But if I miss that, miss praying or miss going to church or doing, you know, reading my Bible, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, like God had walked away. And so it
Mm.
really wasn't, honestly, probably until my senior year in high school, where I was going on a mission trip. So, and like going overseas, I was actually playing soccer with this. I was with Athletes in Action. So I was playing soccer on a team going over to the Czech Republic. And I ended up tearing my ACL in the first game that we played. And it like devastated me.
Mm.
And I knew the minute I did it, like I knew, like I was just like, oh, this dream is gone. Cause I've been talking to some schools at that point in time. And when I was playing back in that day, it was, the recovery time was much, much longer. And so, yeah, I really kind of started wrestling with the Lord and just asking him, like, gosh, are you worth following? Cause
Mm.
and I was definitely doing this transactional relationship where it's like, and it's that, transactional performance where it's like, if I do the things for you, then you're going to do the things, I want
Sure.
you to do. And so, I was like feeling like I was doing all the right things. And then all of a sudden, like, you just took my dream away. And I was really kind of left with like, are you worth following? Like, is this like, are you somebody that I want to continue to, seek after? And and I really got to the point where I was just like, I cannot deny what I have seen God do leading up to those 18 years of my life, where I'd
Mm.
seen him work and be faithful again and again. And so that was really when I would say I really found myself being like, no, you are worth following. Like, I'm going to follow you. And, no matter if the circumstances would say that that's the right thing to do, like I was like, you are worth it. But it really took that injury for me to kind of almost identify that it's like soccer had become an idol. Like,
Mm.
that's what I was running hard after. It wasn't, God was there. So it wasn't like I was like totally not acknowledging God, like he was still there, but I was really running hard after this idol of soccer and performance and wanting to be the best. And I was just hoping God, was coming along for the ride. And so it was really that senior year where he totally flipped it on me, to where I was like, Lord, I want my heart to be fully devoted to you. And I, if soccer would be a part of it, that would be great. But it was no longer this like all consuming that that soccer was that all consuming thing to me. And so, crazy enough, I went on to play at a small school. I went to play at Taylor University in
Cool.
Indiana, and it was an incredible experience. Met my husband there. Like, I never would have gone to that school that I taught tore my ACL. So it's just interesting how God works, but like so grateful that I can look back, because I think now, I mean, even, decades later, where I still have this tendency to define myself by my performance, define myself by my success or failures. And so I'm constantly going back to like identity. Like, and I feel like that's like, it started there, and there's times I'm like, Lord, could I not be done with this? But I just think he's so gracious to like call me into a deeper relationship with him, to help me have a deeper understanding of who I am and who he is.
Mm.
And that my success and failure does really has nothing to do with it. It's like, I'm
Mm.
so deeply loved by the one who created me, and I want to know him more, and not because of what I can get from him. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and that just led then into full-time ministry. Like, I knew that, like, I knew at an early age too, that I was like, I shared my faith early on, and someone came to know Christ, and I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, if I could do this, like for my, like the rest of my life, I'm like, why would I not? And so, yeah, so my husband and I, we've been on staff with Crew for 25 years. So
Okay.
right out of college. Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool. And just
Yeah.
amazing how God's allowing you to combine those two loves. I think that's
Yeah.
amazing how that happens a lot of times. Like, and sometimes I mean, I have had my own experiences with that as well. And I think probably a lot of our community has as well. Like, you get in these places where you're putting some things above God. He knocks you down to where you're supposed to be. And then he says, hey, you don't have to give it up completely. I'm going to show you how I can marry these two things together. And it's amazing when that happens.
Yeah, it has been, because one of my other jobs is I do chaplaincy, and that is like one of those spaces, like I do in the NWSL,
Mm.
and I never would have thought that I would be in that space, like getting to journey alongside women. And I was like, gosh, Lord, you are so good that you would allow me to have this as part of my life so many years later, after just walking through, kind of like you said, like these own things of really of just trying to figure out what does it look like to like to just have God and sport, and what is that, what is that intersection, and does that go together, and all those things. And so to be able to kind of now be doing this as my job is such a blessing.
Yeah, that's cool. So we're about to talk about a great ministry idea that's focused heavily in outreach and evangelism. But before we jump into that, from your perspective, why is it so important that we focus on outreach and to our neighbors, especially in the world of student ministry?
Yeah, well, I just think, so we have 6 kids, and 3 of them are like, we're kind of all over the age range. But I just think that I'm like, one is people are seeking, like God is working in the hearts of people all the time. Like the Holy Spirit is, working and moving. And often though, it's like we need somebody else to come in and to kind of help us make us aware of even what that is. And so I think that's like when I think about evangelism is like, you get to jump into a conversation that God's already having with somebody.
Mhm.
And so it is just, and I think that takes the pressure off too, that it's like, it's not all dependent on you. But I think when I think about, especially like in young people and youth, where I'm like, and we've seen it, is there is such a curiosity and a hunger that there is something more than what is being offered by the world right now.
Yeah.
And we have seen that again and again. And I just think I'm like, but they need somebody to tell them.
Yeah.
And so why not their friend, like the person that they know so closely? And I know that can at times, I'll be honest, it's scary because you're just like, I don't know, what are they going to think of me? Are they going to reject me? Are we still going to be friends after this? But I think when we do it in a way that is, where we ask questions and we're intentional and we want to get to know people for who they are, and we're not seeing people as like a project, but we're really seeing them as like, these are people who are made in the image of God, and he loves them so much. And because of that, I want to love them, and I want to enter into, helping them know and love Jesus more. And so I just think of like, when I think of the youth, I'm like, there's something crazy cool going on right now where we're just seeing people come to know Jesus. And honestly, like I said, I've been in ministry 25 years, where I've never seen before. And so it's so fun to be able to sit here and just see teenagers, college students, taking steps of faith
Mm.
to share their faith, and seeing the response is pretty unbelievable. And so, especially in a time where I think we're seeing loneliness as an epidemic, and
Yeah.
isolation. And I was like, gosh, we need Jesus. Like that is the answer,
Yep.
yes, like we need, and community is a huge part of that. But at the end of the day, it's like, if we have community, we don't have Jesus, it's like, that's lacking. And so it's
Yeah.
like, we need Jesus. And so I just think, what better way than to have your friend talk to you about him?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think it's so cool how, we're in this place where it's very different than when you and I were kids, where, the vast majority of people are open to conversations about faith right now. And so to be able to put some tools and resources and equip students to be able to do that and say, hey, as Jesus says, the fields are ripe for harvest. Go out and
Yes.
start harvesting. They are ready for you to go out there. So I love like what you guys are doing, especially around the World Cup, taking this opportunity and saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, here's a great chance for teenagers, for all people to actually take advantage of this great opportunity that the world is really going to be paying attention to." So, what is Victory Beyond the Cup? What's the deal behind it? What's the thought behind it, the vision? And then we'll talk about how we can actually get involved in it.
As you said, the World Cup is massive. I mean, the world is watching, and, you know, I think it's estimated like 5 billion people will be watching the World Cup. Millions of people are already coming. I mean, they're already here getting ready to go to all the games. And so, as we were thinking about this, really the thought was like, gosh, we need to do something as the church, as believers,
Mm.
because this is an opportunity we don't want to miss. And so, and as we kind of prayed about it and thought, really the thought was like, what would it look like to equip people to share their faith during this incredible cultural moment? And because the reality is that this is the moment, but now if we've equipped, and our goal has been 100,000 people, equip 100,000 believers in 10,000 churches, like now, like these 100,000 people now know how to share their faith for the rest of their life. So we've just given, like we've equipped them around this moment, but now prayerfully, and which is what we've been praying for, is that God would give them eyes to see the people around them, that he would give them a heart to reach out and be intentional and ask those questions that get people thinking. And so if 100,000 people do that for the rest of their life, like the
Mm.
impact is crazy. So I feel like we just utilize this one moment to do that. And really that's the heart, is it's so relational. It's saying, "Hey, I'm going to have a party in my house we're going to put the game on, and I'd love for you to come over and let's just get to know each other. And we've created some tools to help you have conversations there. And then also though, and we've even created tools that help you like in training as well to have like spiritual conversations, gospel conversations. But really it's like, we're asking people, say, what is the step that God is asking you personally? And so for some, it really could just be like, I'm just going to host a watch party and have these people come over. And it's the first time that they've ever had them over. And that is a beautiful step of faith because it is a gift to be invited into somebody's home. Mm. And for others, it's like, hey, actually, I feel like maybe my step of faith is actually kind of broaching spiritual things and kind of having a spiritual conversation. And like I said, there's training on the website for that. And then for others, it's you're having that gospel conversation where you're really, telling people about who Jesus is and you're helping them know how to know him. And so I think that is what it is it's helping people be intentional with those around them. And then just taking the step of faith that God's asking them to do. And knowing that, because right now we've had 75,000 pastors engaged and we've had 67,000 individuals, so it's like I think we're sitting at like 143,000 people who've engaged over 110 countries, which is crazy wild.
Wow.
But just to be thinking about like, there's all these people around the world who are doing the same thing for these 5 weeks of the tournament. Mm-hmm. That all these people are saying like, I want to use this opportunity to help people know and love Jesus. And I think the great thing about it, which is why we did it this way, is that you don't have to know soccer. You don't have to, love the game, because either you're sharing your passion or you're experiencing somebody else's passion, or you're just having a full-on party and you're just throwing the game. The game is just an excuse to invite people over. Yep. But even in like, we have the digital kit has recipes and conversation guides, and we have a teen edition that has soccer bingo and trivia questions. So really just to, you get to customize your party for your audience. So what, your people, the people you're inviting, what they're going to need, like that's what you get to kind of pull from that kit to really help you.
That's so cool. I love how, you made it so accessible as well. And I think, we've had probably lots and lots of conversations over the years around like the Super Bowl being a very similar kind of thing. Hey, the people are going to probably watch the game, even if they're not really into football. Invite them over and see what God does. And it seems like, you're really taking that same kind of mindset, but stretching it out because, the World Cup is more than just a one-day thing. People are going to be paying attention to it for a lot of time, like 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be really exciting. So what are the different ways that student ministry leaders, students, parents can get involved in Victory Behind the Cup?
Yeah. So you can go to the website is victorybeyondthecup.com, and you can download the digital kit, which is free. And so, like I said, on there's conversation guides, there's invitation templates, there's training in how do you invite, how do you have a gospel conversation, a spiritual conversation, inviting people into gospel community. Like I said, there's a teen edition that actually has the soccer bingo and the trivia, as well as like, if people are like, if there's churches out there that are like, gosh, I want to do a VBS or a soccer camp. Like we have resources on there of even just how do you host a one-day soccer camp, and everything as on the website, that you would need. We also have, which is about to go live. It should go live. It's supposed to go live before Thursday, is athlete testimonies. So we've had a few athletes share their testimonies. One is Mark McKenzie. He's on the U.S. men's national team. And so that video will be available on the website that you can pull, and you can either, if you want to do it, if you want to show it during halftime, you can, or if you just want to send it to your friend who's like, hey, I bet you were sharing and you're like, I think you'd really enjoy this video. Let's talk about it later. So those videos will be on there as well. So it's really easy to go and download and, and really figure out, it's like, what exactly do you need? But I would say your first step is like download that kit, that digital host kit, because there are some very clear checklists of exactly what you need to do. Like it will walk you through to help you even figure out who are the people that you even want to invite. Let's choose a date and a time. What are the things you're going to make? So really just helping you think through. We wanted to take the pressure off that it's like, you're like, great, I want to do this. What do I do? I don't know. And so we really wanted to make a step-by-step list of what that looks like. And then it's just praying. It's praying that, the Lord will be preparing your heart. I love this. One of the pastors that we've been working with is shared. He's like, hospitality starts in our own hearts. And so I think that's the prayers that we would have hearts of hospitality. And then we'd be intentionally praying for the people that we're inviting. And then the fun part is that which this is why evangelism, I think, is so why it's so fun, is that it isn't up to us. Like at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I'm like, God is the one who changes people's hearts. Like we get to be obedient and we get to step in and we can share our story. And I think that's like one of the best ways, is just being able to share our own stories with Jesus. But knowing that I'm like, we don't have to have the right words. Like we don't have to have all the things, all the questions, to answer. Like we just get to step in and be like, hey, have you ever considered Jesus? Because he has changed my life. I'm a different person because of him. I have peace. I have joy. And I'm just curious, like, like, have you ever thought about like what it means to know him? And it's that easy. And then we get to trust the Lord that he is working, because we
Mhm.
know he is, and that he's going to be the one who gets to speak into that person's life.
Yeah, that's so good. And thank you guys for so much for providing some resources, because I think that's what a lot of youth leaders like. They have this heart for this. They want to help their students be able to do it, but where to start? And this makes it really incredibly practical. Be able to just hand these to your students, walk through how to use it. Don't just hand it and
Mhm.
walk off, but walk through that process with the students and set them up for success. And be able to also, it sounds like I'm seeing this being able to be used for even parents to be able to say, hey, like I'm going to be able to step into this with alongside my teenager as well and help host something. And who knows what kind of conversations God's going to open up with the parents as well. And maybe they're connecting with other students or parents of students that also come over. Like you said, who
Mhm.
knows what God is going to do, but it's up to us to put forth our effort and let him work. So when you think of beyond the World Cup, a victory beyond the cup, what is that victory beyond the cup? What are you guys hoping to see beyond the World Cup?
Yeah. Well, I think, like I mentioned earlier, I think like what my prayer has been is that this would just give people a heart for evangelism, that this would give them a heart to just, again, be intentional with the people that God has put in their life. And, and really that, I think it's easy to sitting, no, I've done this where it's like, I'm sitting in church and I hear all the things, I get super motivated. And then I hit Monday and I'm like, here's all my whole agenda. These are all the things I have to do. And it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't take time to see, the barista that I talk to every
Mhm.
morning. And I don't, whoever it might be, or the neighbor that walks their dog, in front of my house every morning. And so can I just be intentional to even just take a step to just ask the like, hey, how are you doing today? Like what, just to get to know people. So I think that is like that is the hope, is that this would give people a heart to be intentional. I'm just excited because I just feel like God is just doing crazy things. We had a prayer call on Sunday night. Yeah, that we just had people from all over the world that were on there, we came together because we wanted to kick off this whole thing with prayer, just praying together as believers for the World Cup, for people to share their faith during the World Cup. And so that's what has been incredible. And I think too, what I'm excited about is just even the unity of the body of Christ coming together, because this has been crew initiative, but we would not be able where we're at without the incredible partners we've had. We've had I Am Second, we've had FCA, we've had Alpha, we've had Convoy of Hope, we've had Upwards. Like, I mean, the list goes on and on of people who've said, I want to be a part of this, because we see this as a moment to equip believers, for the rest of their life. And I think that's what I get excited about, is just thinking about honestly, the millions and millions of people who will come to know Jesus because people took a faith this summer,
Mhm.
took a step of faith this summer to say, I want to be intentional. I want to have meaningful faith conversations with the people around me. So I think that's what I get excited about, is the partnership, the body of Christ coming together, and then people being share their faith for
Yeah.
the rest of their life.
Yeah. May it be done. So before we wrap up, I do want to give you just an opportunity to share some encouragement with our audience. You've got a bunch of youth leaders who are going to be listening to this, and I'm sure they're getting excited about utilizing the World Cup and utilizing your resources and things like that. But maybe what's God laying on your heart to share with these youth leaders that are listening today?
Yeah, I think the big thing is and what I get excited about is that we are not alone in doing this. Like even this morning, I got an email from a pastor in Madrid, Spain, who was like, I'm so excited. We're already planning watch parties for our youth and families. And we want to show you the videos, and we're going to use the resources. And so I just think about, like I said, all of these believers, all of these pastors, youth leaders, across the world who are intentionally sharing their faith this summer. Like, you are part of something bigger than just, than what you're doing. And what you're doing is incredible. Like, so I want to say, like, being in ministry, like, I get it. Like, it is exhausting and it is tiring, but you are doing good work. And I think, especially when I think about those of you who are pouring into this younger generation, we're seeing the effects of that as even now, as I work with professional players, like, we're seeing players that are coming in who are hungry for the gospel. And it's because of the work that you're doing, you know, in the high school, elementary school age, where you're helping people come to know Jesus. So one, I just want to encourage you to stay, like, persevere, like, persevere. And then two, like, that you're not alone, like, you are not alone in trying to mobilize your congregation, your leaders, your students. Other people are doing it with you. And then I think we get to sit back, and this is what I want to, like, because I need to hear this for myself, is I get to sit back and see God work. And so I think even just, like, sitting in the moment and receiving and being able to, like, that God would give us eyes to see what he is doing, because I think we can so easily just get on that little treadmill and just run, because there's always more people to know Jesus. But I think even whether it's at the end of the summer or midsummer, but just taking a moment to just say, Lord, would you give me eyes to see what you are doing in my youth group, in my church, because he is moving and he is active. And we have the privilege of getting to see that and being a part of it. So,
yeah. Amen. Heather, it's been great to talk with you today. I know people are going to want to connect with you more, learn more about Victory Beyond the Cup, possibly also what maybe how they can partner with Crew and Athletes in Action. So where can people find all those things? How can they connect more with you and what you're doing?
Yeah, well, you can definitely, like I said, if you want anything Victory Beyond the Cup, you can go to victorybeyondthecup.com, and all of those resources are on there. We have a resource page, you have blogs, check out all of that information on there. And then, if you want to reach out to me personally, I'm like heather.reddy@crew.org. And I would love to connect with any of you guys as you're trying to, even if you're like, I just need somebody to think through, like, how do I, what does this look like for my church? Like, we've had lots of conversations with a lot of churches of how they're implementing Victory Beyond the Cup, just looking to partner in other ways. Love to have that conversation. So,
cool. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Heather, for being on, and thanks for all that you've done and continue to do, especially in the world of athletics. Love what is happening, and just pray God would continue to bless all of it and use all of it for his glory.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you just even letting me be on here. Like, it truly is a privilege to be able to come on and just share what God's doing and how we get to all be a part of it. So Thank you.
If you're listening to this episode as it's releasing on the first day of the World Cup, you still have plenty of time to get these free resources and rally your students and families around this initiative. But if you're listening to it later after the World Cup, take these principles that Heather talked about and apply them to another event or opportunity that's coming up. And if you enjoyed this episode, please reach out to Heather and let her know that you enjoyed hearing from her, but also share it with other student ministry leaders that you know or on social media. It not only helps more student ministry leaders connect and grow and gets the word out about Heather and Victory Beyond the Cup, but it also helps this community continue to grow, which then helps me get great guests on like Heather. And if you'd like to support this podcast even further, I would love for you to consider joining my prayer and my financial partnership teams. Both are incredibly important to helping this podcast and my ministry with National Network of Youth Ministries continue to happen. You can go to nnym.org/Steve Cullum, or you can follow the links in the show notes or on studentministryconnection.com. And while you're there in the show notes, you'll of course find the link to Victory Beyond the Cup, but also a link to the Speaker Hub, which will provide you with a big list of experienced student ministry speakers who you can book for your next youth group event or training. And you may spot someone else on there that you know from this podcast. Hint, hint. Speaking of speaking, I have a few speaking opportunities lined up for this summer, so if you think about me, please say a quick prayer for me that God would speak through me and use me in all those settings. And as we step into summer, may I suggest a few episodes from the past that might be helpful. Episode 110 is about preparing well to have a successful camp, and episode 111 is about thriving during camp. Episode 137 is about how to evaluate your camp or program. And episode 164 is about how to take that camp experience into an everyday faith. If you're new to Student Ministry Connection, you may want to check them out or maybe recommend them to other student ministry leaders who might benefit from listening. We'll be back soon with our next episode, so make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. And until next time, be sure to stay connected, and may God bless your ministry.